It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Friday, kids. And Gary, I'm told by a listener we can't call it the bonus show. We did miss a day this week, so
we
can't call this.
We haven't done that in, what, 5-6 years?
It's been a long time since we called it the bonus show.
Well, at least somebody in this country
is paying attention.
That listener, has a good memory.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. What a day.
There's a lot to unpack here, but what we have in its entirety is evidence that right now this president is compromised, and I don't mean anything that has to do with his son, Hunter Biden. That's separate. This president is compromised because there is something wrong with him mentally. I'm not a doctor. I don't like people in the media trying to diagnose, it's clearly this, but I'm going to tell you right now, if he can't remember basic and important things about his life, then he is a risk at that level as commander-in-chief.
Well, when you see what the special counsel did, you and I had some discussion about this because we have, we've dealt with dementia. Not us personally, but
I actually yesterday was dealing with it in an official capacity.
And one of the things that they ask to find out, what your cognitive state is, are things like, as you were saying, the year, things that happen in your life.
Yes.
Important benchmarks, and if you don't remember, and it looks like that's what the special counsel was doing by asking those kinds of questions.
Yes.
Was trying to basically get a base. Is he mentally capable? And they came to the conclusion that, he's not mentally capable of his memory is now, of course, he's going to object to that. But what he is accusing the special counsel is that the special counsel is lying in that report.
Yes.
And that he's telling you the truth. Now, we can sit there and because this is just, the funny thing is, this came out and I was getting ready to go to sleep. And all I'm thinking of, all right, somebody's going to bring up the 25th Amendment. Is he going to do a press conference? All these things. And he did all of those things. And it was just a disaster. Let's play just a little bit here. This is a part of when he started, taking a few questions from the press after he made his statement, and went after the special counsel, for saying that he didn't remember, when his, what year his son died. Basically, how dare he do that? Mm-hmm. And then said, we gather, and this is the part that everybody that I think most people picked up on. He goes, we, celebrate his life every Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Where that just showed me
once again
that it gets right, as he's trying to justify that he knows what's going on, he goes back to the fact, the falsehood that he tells constantly that he told two of the parents last week of one of the soldiers that was killed in the attack.
That his son died in war.
That his son died in Iraq. And that's the mind-boggling thing is, as he was attempting to justify it, he made the case that he doesn't remember key things about his son dying.
And we don't know which it is, whether he's just been used to lying all of that and built a false truth in his mind, or if there's something in his mind that is creating false memories.
Right.
As a part of the condition.
Well, you have a great point. Does he have Costanza-itis?
No, it is very real, actually, with pathological liars. And these are people that all of their life, in every capacity, they're lying to everybody on a regular basis. They're lying to the people that they're closest to. and we know this about him because he's a public figure and has been for decades. So we don't know. But those individuals who do that actually create a false truth in their mind to the point that, Constanza-itis, it's not a lie if you believe it, but the point in this, in the psychology of it, the very reality of it is they've told that lie or those lies for so long that it's actually their memory now. And if something's going on, by the way, we can combine the two, and if something's going on with his memory and he's built that false memory in his mind, that in a moment where he thinks he remembers, he's remembering the false memory.
Right. I keep telling you weren't with Aerosmith, but you continually have said since I've worked with you for 12 years that you were with the band.
Speaking of lies, and I told you the worst one when I got in trouble when I was an adolescent. My mom said, "Your word is no good," and I said, "Mom, I want to earn your respect again, and there's something I have to confess to." And she said, "Yes, son." I said, "I'm not a guitarist for the band Aerosmith."
All right, let's play some of the press conference. Here's Ducey asking the first question yesterday.
President Biden, something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's
How
totally
bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
Do you
that's
feel
my
your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory. Take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Mr. President, you were cleared of criminal liability today. Mr. President, do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me but my staff.
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me." Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
They express concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old. Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? What is your answer to that question?
Because I'm the most qualified person in this country to be president of the United States.
And part of the other things, as I said, as he was, speaking earlier, he talked about, he's the president of the red states and the green states. Yeah. That came out. He just, in key areas, and like I said, one of the keys was when he talked about, he's furious. I'll find the audio coming up in a little bit, and he goes, we celebrate his life every Memorial Day. And I'm like, oh, my God, he just let it know. Everybody knows it's not true, and that's one of the things that everybody has picked up on. He keeps, apparently not knowing how his son Bo died. And then, he says he's furious at the special counsel for bringing, how dare you, as if, this is part of his private life, forgetting that, sorry, you're president of the United States.
Everything is of the American people in that capacity.
Right. So, but just, what a horrible day. We'll get into some of the things that the special counsel said. We'll what the Republicans are saying. You had one representative already coming out and saying, the 25th Amendment must be, invoked here. There's a major problem here because this is not, everyone knows Joe Biden is having cognitive problems. Exactly, and the White House and his family continue to lie about that. Now, what his cognitive problem is caused by, I don't know.
Right. And how extensive it is, we don't know.
Right. How extensive. Now, dealing as I have with dementia in my family,
mm-hmm. This is from experience. You and I have direct
Right.
experience, as many do.
As many people out there do. You look at it and you say, a lot of the same signs are there. Now, does it mean it's dementia? I'm not a medical professional, and I can't, I can't, come up with a medical opinion on it because I'm not a doctor. But I do know, we all know, for somebody, and I'm sure you're going to be, well, how dare anybody say that, about him? How do you know? Because I have followed Joe Biden since the 70s.
I actually was asked today, are you a doctor? And I said, no, I'm a caregiver. I have a greater concern than a doctor. While a doctor takes a Hippocratic oath, I'm going to be there in the moments when a doctor won't be. And that's the thing, is that it had to do with the capacity of a family member. And by the way, in our pre-show meeting, you and I were going over this, and I was telling you what had happened yesterday with me in my personal life. And a family member who has dementia was asked what year it is, and the answer was 1964. And it's crushing.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't.
Well,
if you bring it up, it's fine.
I think it's important because I know that there are so many millions of people that are suffering as caregivers and suffering with dementia. And when the story broke, it broke after. At the end of my day and all that had happened, and you said, yeah, just like the report and everything going on with Biden. I said, my gosh, how did I not even make that connection, which is a direct connection, which is exactly what millions of people go through. We know it. We're caregivers. We're going to be there when they need everything. And I got to tell you, it's nefarious if he's lying. It's nefarious if he has dementia, because if he has dementia, there are other people who know it that are allowing this to go on, and I'm going to include the First Lady on that. She's closest to him. If he has dementia, and I want to qualify it, if he has dementia and they know something is wrong and they're allowing him to be in a situation like this, then they're only doing it for their own power. They're only doing it for their own gain, and that is shameful.
Well, the fact is they won't even admit that he's having cognitive problems.
Exactly.
And it's obvious to everybody, every Democrat. It's obvious to every single Democrat out there, which is why the majority of Democrats don't want him to run. And because of that, he's not and the people that believe, well, he's not effectively, able to sell the agenda. Well, that's because they believe he's got cognitive problems.
Right.
That's one of the major reasons. So the fact is his family knows it, his staff knows it, and everybody denies that there's anything wrong with him. That he is, you hear it. Oh, no. He is the most energetic. He is the one with, that just his mind is quicker than ever. Well, we know that's a load of horse manure. Everyone knows it.
Yes.
He's having, because even when he's defending himself, he's having basic problems remembering things, and he puts out the key signs, and he did with the whole thing about Beau Biden and Memorial Day is when they celebrate him.
Right.
Because if you're a regular person and your kid did not die, in a war,
mm-hmm.
and you say something like that, there's a big blowback that you get on that.
Right. Yeah.
How dare you compare yourself? I mean, this would be the narrative. How dare you compare yourself to soldiers that actually died in war?
Well, and if you're lying about it as a family member, it's like the stolen valor of a Gold Star family.
Yes.
You're taking, and that's what we're dealing with here. And if it is the case that he doesn't have dementia and he's built a house of lies or a series of lies, a pile of lies that he has just trained himself to believe because he's told them so often, then that's on him. Again, it's nefarious either way, because if there is something wrong with him, then the people closest to him are fully aware of it every single day, and they're allowing this, and if he's suffering from that, then they're putting him on display to suffer in front of the entire nation, knowing also that he's not capable of leading as commander-in-chief. They're risking the lives of every American, and they're putting him on display as somebody who is suffering, and I don't tolerate that for 1 second.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Tires command a lot of attention. As a top expense for drivers and a leading cause of CSA violations, any tire maintenance practice that can help extend tire life is worth consideration. Consider tire balancing, which can set you up for savings and a smoother ride before your tires touch the highway. Tire balancing corrects an uneven distribution of weight in tires and wheel assemblies and offers benefits like improved fuel economy, increased tire life, and reduced vibration. Unusual shaking in the seat, cab, or steering wheel is a warning sign your tires might need to be balanced.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning and welcome. I want to play this part of Biden in his speech and press conference yesterday because there were a number of mistakes that he was made as he was talking about the fact that he has no cognitive problems. You know, he talked about the support he gets from green states. Mixed up, I think, confuses Mexico with Egypt. And then this here we go.
There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of... Every Memorial Day, we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him.
And you could see when he said from Our Lady of and couldn't remember. And then he went into the fact that every Memorial Day, and that gets right into the lie, you know, of his belief and his promotion that his son who died from brain cancer, you know, died in war. And, you know, it was just that in itself. You know, if the cognitive problems, forget about him being a president of the United States, that I disagree with probably as much of his policy as anybody out there. But as a human being, he has problems, and to put him out there like that, even, you know, in those moments there where he's trying to convince you he doesn't have dementia, and he doesn't have any, I won't say dementia, he doesn't have any cognitive problems, he continues to show you he has major cognitive problems.
And if he has those cognitive problems, those close to him, his staffers and family know it.
They know it.
I don't expect Hunter to care, but I do expect the First Lady to care about that most importantly. And if he's not, if there is nothing wrong with him, he's just slowing down. And by the way, you can't convince me of that. But if that is the case, then it means he is telling lies repeatedly. But that's not the case. As you mentioned, Gary, millions of us have been through it as caretakers, as those family members that we watch and care for go through something like this.
You know,
I don't know what the diagnosis is, and I'm not going to try and make it. But I see the signs, and I have a lot of questions, and the American people, all of us, deserve answers.
Autonomous individuals in unison. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, we will cover the Supreme Court hearing yesterday for Trump and the entire eligibility. And it was really, it was fascinating. I was chuckling at times. And when you had Justice Jackson sounding like an originalist, like a constructionist.
Yeah, right.
I'm sitting there shaking.
You've got such an interesting take on this, by the way, that you were telling me during the break, and I was like, whoa. It's almost like one of those movies with a plot twist where it's like, the liberals are, and if you want to expand on it now, but it's just. So tell our great audience what you were telling me during the break, because I thought to myself, oh, my gosh, what a twist.
I was talking, this was texting back and forth with friends as it was going on. And again, the thing is, I'd gotten up, getting coffee, trying to listen to actually what was going on. At the same time, I'm scanning to see what the other analysis is from legal experts that I respect, and still having the back and forth.
Yeah.
And, one of my friends said, man, it sounds like the liberal justices are the toughest on this. It's really incredible. And I said, well, one of the reasons, and I said yesterday, remember, it should be 9-0.
Right.
In a sane world, it should be 9-0. But also in the insane world of of liberalism today and what justices believe. The reason that I believe the reason they took such a hard line, and the funny thing is, I just told you right before we went on the air, I read Andrew McCarthy's column, and I almost screamed. I went, "It's exactly what I was saying." I'm like, nobody else has said this, and he said it. And I was telling my buddies about it yesterday, that what you have to understand is the liberal justices do not believe in federalism.
Right.
They don't believe that the states, they believe that the central federal government should be the main. This is the argument that has been going on since the beginning of this country. The book I read, Founding Brothers, talks about that, says the one thing that has always been the same, it will be an argument that will never, until the end of mankind or this country, which will be 2035, when we're all driving EVs, because we're all going to move.
Or we're all walking because we can't afford EVs.
Well, we got to find a country where I don't have to drive an EV. But they don't believe in federalism to begin with, even if the states clearly had the ability in the Constitution to rule that a candidate is unqualified because of the Insurrection Act. I believe they would still be against it, even if it was clear that the states had, the ability to do that. They would try to find any argument because they believe that the power should reside in the federal government.
Exactly.
They don't believe in federalism.
Right.
Now, federalism doesn't apply here.
No.
In the 14th Amendment,
but they're trying to,
right.
they're trying to apply it.
But that's how they think. So it may be a 9-0 or an 8-1 decision, and they all agree that the state doesn't have the power, but they come at it from different angles.
Right.
And it was funny because
for different reasons,
different, and I'll read later on about the Andrew McCarthy, because I was like, look at it, exactly. And I hadn't seen that from anybody else.
Yeah.
And that was just a thought. They go, well, why wouldn't they be against Trump? And I said, well, because they don't believe in federalism.
Right.
If you were to ask that question.
Yeah. Right.
And it wasn't like absolutely because of this. I just said, well, first thing that comes to my mind is they don't believe in federalism. They don't wish to believe that the federal government was created by the states. Not that the federal government creates the states create the federal government.
Right.
And so much of the power was supposed to reside in the states. So since they don't ever wish to believe that, and they want to believe in the huge, big central government, that would be, I believe, an incentive for that. But we'll get to some of that coming up. But I'm telling you, what a day it was. And I just want to get here. Biden's doddering document defense.
Yeah.
Special counsel Robert Hur says a jury might not convict the elderly, forgetful president. This thing isn't going. This thing's not going away.
No.
Because this was not. Now, there's a bunch of different ways, as you said, that you can look at this. For example, it is okay to bring up a conspiracy theory based on the fact of what the Department of Justice and Democrats have already done.
Yeah.
Because the conspiracy theory would be they know that Biden is bad and they don't wish for him to run again. Because in this, listen to my conspiracy theory now.
Yep.
Because
by the way, I was gonna say I have a conspiracy theory about it, and we have the same conspiracy theory apparently.
Well, the reason is, they felt that they had to differentiate between Biden and Trump.
Yes,
in there, and they said the difference is that, and this has always been a problem for the president. If true, that the National Archives and the government, said, look, we want our stuff, we want this stuff back,
right?
And he, according to the special counsel, consulted with other people to hide it from the federal government.
Mm-hmm. He being Trump,
mm-hmm. Right? And so that's the difference. That there wasn't collusion to keep the documents away and a conspiracy to keep the documents away. So if that's what you're going, if that's, and that was in there, well, then that should be the be-all, end-all. We're not going to prosecute because that would be the difference.
Right.
They didn't have to bring up his cognitive state.
Right.
Because they had separated why they believe, and they said, even though we don't have all the information because we haven't investigated Trump, here's what we believe the difference would be. Well, then you've put out your justification of why why the Department of Justice is going after Trump and now Biden.
Right.
Why did you add the cognitive part of it? You added the cognitive part of it. This is the conspiracy theory now. Because you want him gone. You don't believe he can win.
Right.
And deep state wants him out. They want the win, and they get the win, they believe, if he's out.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, because they make it clear, part of the reason is, that they wouldn't prosecute is because they couldn't get a jury to convict him. Now, it's interesting how passionate the special counsel was about what a jury might or might not do as justification for you not charging somebody, because what you're saying is...
What value is there in making that point in the report?
Right. If you weren't going to charge him, why bring it up?
Right. Why do you have to explain that? If you don't see the grounds for charging, why do you feel the need to walk all the way through of what a jury might do in that situation?
Which is one of the reasons you wouldn't charge him.
Exactly.
Is because he's Uncle Leo.
Right.
I don't know what's going on. I'm just, I'm just, remember that was the shoplifting episode with Uncle Leo on Seinfeld.
Exactly.
And then it's like, well, no, all old people steal.
Right.
and
well, now that's going to be Hunter. Maybe that's going to be Hunter's new defense. Listen, we weren't aware of it, but Dad, as vice president, was telling me to do this.
And Seinfeld's mom says, "Well, no, we all steal." What do you mean you all steal? You steal? Yeah, batteries. It's like, oh my God.
The batteries thing sticks in always will. If you say Uncle Leo, batteries first come to mind. The Uncle Leo episode.
Right. So And so you say, well, why did you bring that up? Because what you did was you made the case that, okay, here are the differences, but we didn't prosecute him, even though there are differences. Part of your other justification, we didn't prosecute him because he's an old man with a bad memory.
Right.
That can't remember basic things of his life, which are some of the questions that are asked to find out whether you have dementia or not. So his response is basically, yes, I am mentally capable of standing trial.
Right. Exactly. And
it was bizarre yesterday.
Well, because
bizarre.
and the conspiracy part of it, and it's really not a conspiracy, it's more of just a theory of a reality. That we know that everyone around him, whether it's family, friends, staffers, cabinet members, rank and file members of his party, know what's going on. They see it. We can't diagnose it, but we can see the symptoms on a regular basis. So, special prosecutor puts this in. Why? You're building the defense of not going through with the prosecution, not suggesting prosecution, because, well, like you said, Uncle Leo defense, well, he doesn't get it. But you're also doing something else. You're demonstrating as to why he shouldn't be president.
Yeah, because what you're saying is he is mentally incapable of standing for trial.
And by the way, that's not an unintended consequence of the special prosecutor's report, at least according to this, theory. That would be a very intended consequence. In other words, yeah, we're also trying to, start that fire going so that if it burns quickly and hot enough, then Gavin Newsom can run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, that's what they're telling the American public. And when you tell the American public, the President of the United States, we are not going to prosecute him, partly because he's not capable of standing for trial,
right?
Because of his mental capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Then people start asking, well, what are those things?
Right.
And when the president comes up and says things like, when his son, when he gets angry about it, and then he says, Our Lady of, and can't remember,
mm-hmm.
Our Lady of what,
mm-hmm.
And then says that every Memorial Day they celebrate his son. And you made a great point. You said, is that a lie?
Is it a lie that him saying, well,
right.
Every Memorial Day we celebrate. We have a service. Didn't he say service? We have a service?
Yeah, for his exactly.
Where's evidence of them having a service? Because the point is that, again, it's part of an effort, I believe, in order to it is stolen valor of golden families. You're stealing, mm-hmm. which is horrible. Or
he really believes it.
He actually believes it. And that's the problem. It's one of the
right.
two.
And either one is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem, and each one of them is nefarious in nature because of the caretakers. If it is something wrong with his cognitive issues that clearly are in decline, we don't know to what extent, they know about it. And the other side, it's nefarious, of course, if he's lying. And he's told a series of lies for decades, so we don't know which it is.
Well, you can still have the stolen valor lies, yes, along with cognitive problems.
Exactly.
Because he was a pathological liar before he ever got dementia.
Exactly.
But I think you bring up a great point. When you lie your entire life and then you get dementia,
mm-hmm.
or you have cognitive problems, whatever it is, do those lies even become more real?
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Curley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More on the, all I got to say, in American politics right now, you think about it, just in, you think the last decade and going forward the next decade, probably one of the most intense political news times in American history. Seriously.
Yeah,
the stuff that
it
goes
is.
on every day.
It is.
And yesterday, I just wow.
Yeah, and you know what a tangled web we weave.
Yep.
Comes to mind, and it's entangled the entire nation.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. So I'm just laughing here because Wall Street Journal in their lead editorial brings up, Was it Vincent Gigante back in the 90s?
Yeah.
The bathrobe defense.
Right.
The mobster who attended his arraignment in pajamas and a bathrobe, claimed to be mentally impaired. He goes, regarding President Biden's misuse of classified documents, the country is now asked to believe the forgetful elderly man defense. That's likely to be the main public takeaway from the special counsel's report on his investigation into secret documents Mr. Biden kept in various places. Mr. Herr reports that he uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. But he concludes that no criminal charges are warranted, in large part because he doesn't believe a jury would convict a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. The report says Mr. Biden kept documents with classified markings about Afghanistan, an issue about which he had taken a particular interest during the Obama presidency. He also kept notebooks implicating sensitive intelligence sources and methods in his garage, offices, and basement den. Mr. Biden used these documents and notes to assist in writing his 2007 and 2017 memoirs, and he shared those secrets with a ghostwriter. By the way, he's denied all of that, so either the special counsel is lying or Biden is lying.
No, great point.
Mr. Herr also discovered a recorded 2017 conversation in which Mr. Biden said to his ghostwriter that he just found all the classified stuff downstairs. Mr. Herr also makes clear that with his long experience in public, Mr. Biden was well aware of the rules regarding the protection of national secrets. Yet while his report is scathing on the facts, it goes easy on the decision to prosecute. A sitting president can't be prosecuted under longtime Justice Department rules, but Mr. Herr says he would not have prosecuted without such a rule. Why? He didn't think a jury would convict beyond a reasonable doubt. Mr. Herr said a jury might buy a potential Biden argument that a former vice president used to seeing sensitive material would find the random classified document in his house as an unremarkable or forgettable event. Trump lawyers, remember that defense.
Yeah.
Or he might argue to a jury, as he did in his interview with prosecutors, that he honestly believed the notebooks were my property. Mr. Herr also says Mr. Biden would likely present himself as a forgetful old man, the Uncle Leo defense. I added that. The way he presented himself to Mr. Herr's prosecutors. And it's on this point where the report becomes more politically than legally damaging. As Mr. Herr puts it, Mr. Biden's memory also appears to have had significant limitations, both at the time he spoke to his ghostwriter in 2017, as evidenced by their recorded conversations, and today, as evidenced by his recorded interview in our office. Mr. Biden's recorded conversations from 2017 are often painfully slow, with Mr. Biden struggling to remember events and strained at times to read and relay his own notebook entries. Quote, in his interview in our office, this is a special counsel, his memory, Mr. Biden's memory, was even worse. He did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of his interview when his term ended, and forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died, and his memory appeared hazy when describing the Afghanistan debate that was so important to him, Mr. Herr writes. If Mr. Biden is that forgetful, how can he fulfill his presidential duties for another 4 years? Democrats have some hard thinking to do about his candidacy. It also raises a question of double standards regarding Donald Trump's prosecution for mishandling documents. Mr. Herr is at pains to say the difference is that Mr. Trump is alleged to have lied about the documents and refused to cooperate, in contrast to Mr. Biden. That may be true, but Mr. Herr's report will still be front and center of Mr. Trump's defense at his trial, and you can bet it will be now a staple of Mr. Trump's presidential campaign.
Right. Well, now there's no ignoring it. We got a special counsel report that demonstrates it. The blue whale pot in the living room that the left wanted to ignore. I won't say everyone wanted to ignore. Actually, they didn't ignore it. You touched on it earlier. Let me back up.
Okay. Beep,
They
beep,
have been saying
beep.
nothing is wrong.
Yes.
Then he's lying. Then he's lying. For any of them saying up there that I don't care who it is, he's fine. So you're saying he's lying. Because that's a deliberate lie, and we all know it. He's telling that lie, with some of those lies, repeatedly. He's lying?
Not that's you have to look. Either he's lying or
He
has major cognitive problems.
It is one of the two. And don't say he misspoke, because he said it repeatedly.
Yeah.
So he either believes it in his mind, or he believes the lie is going to work in his mind. So it's one of the two. The American people deserve to know whether he has cognitive issues officially. He is commander-in-chief. And in those moments, can't be trusted to do the right thing. It's not an easy decision in those moments for anyone with sound mind. But we certainly need to know if he is not of sound mind.
Comer put out a statement, James Comer. Comer's statement on special counsel Herr's report. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer issued the following statement on special counsel Robert Herr's report. Americans expect equal justice under the law and are dismayed the Justice Department continues to allow Joe Biden to live above it. Joe Biden willfully retained classified documents for years in unsecured locations and intentionally disclosed them, yet faces no consequences for his actions. The House Oversight Committee has been investigating Joe Biden's mishandling of classified documents, and we have uncovered key facts that unravel the White House's and President Biden's personal attorney's narrative of the events. Additionally, important questions remain about the extent of Joe Biden retaining sensitive materials related to specific countries involving his family's influence peddling schemes that brought millions to the Bidens. While the Justice Department has closed its investigation, the Oversight Committee's investigation continues. We will continue to provide transparency and accountability that is owed to the American people. Yep.
Yeah. All right. You know, there's so much going on here, but it honestly, I don't think we at all can discount that theory. It's not a conspiracy theory, but a theory that it was deliberate on the part of the special counsel to include these items in the report. Because we know that the majority of the party does not want him to be the nominee. I mean, honestly, there are very few people. Gavin Newsom the other day is just going over the top in a very contrived way, trying to paint Joe Biden as a great president. Everything's fine. Look at blah, 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 rapid fire. Yeah, sounds like you're trying too hard as a person who clearly wants to be the nominee. We see it. We all know it. And now the special prosecutor, whether it was deliberate or not, brought it to the surface in an official way. There's something going on with the president. He's either pretending to have some level of dementia or he has it.
Yeah, I don't know how the political pressure, because this is the opening. The reason we brought up the conspiracy theory that the Justice Department said, look, let's bring up the cognitive problems that he's having because deep state needs him gone and needs somebody else in there, and he's not leaving voluntarily.
Right. Yeah.
And so we'll do the conspiracity theory before anybody else
the
does.
The Illuminati wants another nominee.
Right. But the fact is, how does he stay? Because this isn't going away. Because every mistake he makes now is even going to be amplified more because the charge isn't coming from Republicans. And even though the charge was coming strictly from Republicans because Democrats kept lying about his cognitive abilities, and everybody knows it because the public knows it. It's the biggest worry of Democrats.
Right.
So we all know it.
He's a liability. We said it back, my gosh, this goes back a couple of years. Hunter Biden's a liability to Joe Biden. The bigger liability to Joe Biden is Joe Biden. And they all know it. And it's getting worse by the day.
Yeah, so I don't, it's going to be fascinating here. I mean, tomorrow, and I don't know, I don't even know what his schedule is or whether there's going to be, whether Karine Jean-Pierre, I mean, that's going to be, that binder the next time, I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or Monday, they may take a lid.
No, they may call a lid.
It may be a very
we
early
need to watch
lid.
We need to watch the news feed this morning. I mean, throughout our show, they may call a lid in the middle of the night.
They may have already called a lid.
Exactly. But I mean, and are you going to call a lid for the rest of 24?
Okay, here we go. 9 a.m. tomorrow, President receives a presidential daily briefing, in-house pool time, press briefing at 1 p.m. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and NSC Coordinator for Strategic Communications John Kirby in the Brady Press Briefing Room at 1 p.m.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
What do I have? What's my day like tomorrow? Oh, it was going to be do a bunch of, because we've had such nice weather, do a bunch of outside work.
Yeah, no, we're getting spring in February, yeah.
I'm taking a break. I'm assuming that's 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, it is.
So
wait a minute.
Well,
yeah, it is.
I'll get it straight, but there it is, the press briefing. So apparently it's taking place, and President departs White House en route to Delaware at 5:40 p.m. So as of right now, there's going to – I'm sorry, that's must-see TV. Her binder is going to look like – one of those wind turbine, wind-powered planes that we talked about.
They may, in fact, after watching it, they may change my mind about how much energy could be produced from wind because of the wind caused by the turning of those pages.
Yes. So I mean, it's good.
I might be looking at that going, hey, man, somebody needs to, get with her and design something because we could power major states with this. This is the problem that I mean, what are they going to say? We know what the questions are going to be. And by the way, the press corps is going to be, going to be.
Well, because they want him gone.
Yeah. No,
the liberals want him gone. They don't want him to run.
And now they have something tangible. We haven't had anything tangible yet. The special prosecutor's report is tangible. They have it. It doesn't go away. It's permanent. It doesn't change.
Well, here's the next thing. Republicans in the House will now call him to testify.
The special prosecutor, yes.
What I say?
No, you just said him, but being the special prosecutor, yes. Yeah.
Now they're going to say you need to come before Congress.
There's no coming back, and, the special prosecutor's not going to do what the lawyer that Dick Cheney shot in the face did, apologizing to Dick Cheney for causing so much grief to him. He's not going to come back and revert. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I just that. Yeah, you know what? I think maybe I wrote down some wrong. It's not. This doesn't change, and it's something tangible in the hands of everyone, including those liberals who do not want Joe Biden to be on the ballot November 5th. Forget about taking Trump off the ballot. Their greater concern is having Joe Biden on the ballot.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper, or your carrier if you're leased, about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's see what some of the liberal media are saying. Let's go to CNN here,
All right.
and this is after Biden gave his statement, then took a couple of questions that just killed him. And there was actually stuff out there on social media. The White House wants him gone. That's why they sent him out there. That his staff wants him gone.
Yeah.
That everybody wants him gone. I don't believe that's the case.
I don't believe that's the case.
Because if that was the case, they wouldn't have sent him out the last year.
Exactly.
So,
right.
But some of the analysis on CNN yesterday.
That is what blew my mind about Joe Biden's statement. Two major things he just outright contradicts or is contradicted by, however you look at this report. There are two things he said that are completely the opposite of what Robert Hur found. And who do you believe is up to, I guess, the individual consumer. First, Joe Biden says, I did not act willfully. Willfully just means voluntarily, intentionally. Well, the second sentence of this whole summary says, President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials. The facts in here show it was willful. He knew. He talked about it. And the second thing he says is, I did not disclose classified documents to my ghostwriter. Page 3 says that he did that. It says, Mr. Biden shared information, including some classified information from those notebooks, with his ghostwriter.
There you go.
Exactly what we said. I mean, you can't. It's so clear, that Biden just got he got killed. I mean, it was horrible. And like I said, the mistakes that he made yesterday, I think it was somewhere else where he said that he represents the green states. I don't think it was in that conversation. I saw that audio cut earlier, so I think they were two separate places where he said it. But like I said, the worst thing is when he went after the special counsel,
right?
For how dare he bring up Bo, that is none of his business, and then talked about the Rosary from Our Lady of, and then paused and couldn't remember what he was saying, and then said that every Memorial Day they have services for Bo,
Yeah.
And you just shook your head going, my God.
Well,
that to me, that was the worst moment.
And
there were quite a few bad moments.
And what you just heard from CNN there, the contradiction. On one side, if Biden is lying, saying that the special prosecutor is lying and those things aren't true, then a political lie isn't prosecutable. But if the special prosecutor is lying and deliberately puts a lie in an official report, then that is prosecutable. And that's your difference.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Of course, after that, reading the headline here, Trump demands Department of Justice immediately drop charges against him in classified documents case in the Biden decision. Trump spoke exclusively with Fox News Digital after the report was made public. Trump said they should immediately drop the case against us. I am covered by the Presidential Records Act. He wasn't. He had many, many, many more times more documents, totally unguarded. Mine were always surrounded by Secret Service and in locked rooms. So this is going to be interesting. And again, this is why we brought up all the different possible conspiracy theories out there to cover all angles, because you can't trust the government. You can't, when you have a Department of Justice that will send FBI agents to jot down parents' license plate numbers outside of schools because their parents are upset that critical race theory and the liberal transgender activist movement the radical movement is used to protect transgenders who commit sexual assault. Well, at that particular point, you can't be trusted. We saw what the Department of Justice has done with the Biden investigation in general with other special counsels, and so you look at the totality of what it has become, and we go back to even when Trump was president, and you go back to what was going on with Mueller and just everything, everything there, and you look and you go, well, okay, we have to talk about what we know as the facts, and then you have to say, okay, what would be the motivation?
Well, and Russia collusion, when you had two FBI analysts that were saying whoever wrote this white paper, the one that basically that kind of kept the FBI investigation going on Trump as at the hands of Hillary Clinton, and they said as they were analyzing it, wow, this looks crazy. Whoever wrote the white paper in management at the FBI at the time said, no, we're going to pursue it. If you think about that, there are so many clear examples that aren't being disputed, by the way, of that kind of behavior. So you have to consider all of that when you think of anything going on, especially regarding Trump. It is just relentless. You and I have said from the beginning on Russia, really, as the Russia collusion thing started to take off, if they're willing to do this to someone like him, they're willing to do this to anyone. And, of course, the whole thing of jotting down parents' license plates is the prime example of that. They'll go after anybody because that's part of their agenda. So you have to include that. You have to consider that at every step along the way. And I don't know where this goes. Biden's not going to take official action against the report, the special prosecutor's report. That's not going to happen.
He's going to do what, you said?
I said he's not going to take official action against. There is no official action.
There's no official action to be done.
The closest to official action is to come out and say it's lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. But again, well, okay, Biden can lie all day long, and you can't do anything lawfully about it. You can vote differently, but you can't prosecute him for lying necessarily in that fashion. But if the special prosecutor deliberately put lies in a report, you could go after the special prosecutor. It would be very risky for a special prosecutor to lie about that. And by the way, we know special prosecutor wasn't lying about those items.
That's why I believe what will happen next is the Republicans are going to call the special prosecutor.
Yep.
The special prosecutor says this, Biden says this.
Exactly.
And Republicans will probably come out and say the president's lying because he's a pathological liar.
Right.
Or his cognitive abilities are so bad that he believes the lies that he's saying. But we need to get this because the president said it again. We need to get her here. And it's commonplace that this would happen after a special prosecutor's report comes out. Congress says, okay, we want you to be a witness and testify about the report.
Right.
And that's not going to be a good day. And that probably would be, we're in February now. When they would decide to do that would be probably March or April.
Yep.
And that would be, that would bring it back again. But it's not going to go anywhere because the Democrats don't want him to run.
Right.
And so
it's not going to go away.
It's not going to go away. Right. It's not going to go away. It's not like, okay, this is going to disappear. They are going to keep pounding this because their hope is that Newsom will run. That's their hope.
Yeah.
It's not, about Harris, I still believe they would say, we don't care. But she's a black woman. We don't care. We got to win.
Yep.
And we can't win.
Right.
We saw, we saw what happened when they decided that Bernie Sanders couldn't be the one. And Clyburn came out in South Carolina and, the word went out. No, this guy, noted that, and so they got the Biden vote. So I think the same thing would happen here.
Well,
they're out to win.
I'll add to the conspiracy theory here, right? Okay, that the special prosecutor included things that weren't necessary in the report to demonstrate that the president and his cognitive abilities are in decline in order to usher him out as the nominee. But if you think about the way that it was presented and then how defiant, in other words, we asked, okay, are those around him finally going to give in and convince Joe Biden, essentially, talk to him privately and say, we think that you need to announce you're not going to run for re-election? Well, as defiant as Joe Biden is, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to. So what do you have to do? Well, if you really want that to happen, then you present something tangible that builds more energy to support him not being the nominee because he's defiant.
Well, look, I had laid out earlier when I said, doing the conspiracy theory, that, why, if the Justice Department believed, if the special counsel believed that we made it clear that there's a difference, and the difference is Trump tried to hide the stuff from us when we were coming after it, and Biden didn't, well, then why did you have to add? If you believe that was crystal clear and that was a definitive legal difference, and that's why you're prosecuting Trump and not Biden, well, why would you add the rest? You would add the rest either because you want Biden out or you believe you can't sell the argument of the difference between the Trump case and the Biden case because you yourself have said willfully he did this over a period of 40 years and the fact is, he's blaming his staff, but it wasn't. Turley pointed out this is 40 years. The stuff he took from the Senate, that wasn't his staff. He took that out.
Right.
And he's just like, it's none of it's believable. But was a special counsel, is it not a conspiracy? Was a special counsel looking to go, we really can't sell this to the public, that there's that much of a difference between what Trump did and what Biden did, because Biden did it for 40 years. There were much more. The picture shows that they were all over the place.
Right.
They weren't carefully stored. You could see the boxes were open. He shared them with somebody else, as we all know, which was an accusation also against Trump. And so we can't sell this alone. We need to basically say he's a elderly man with cognitive problems that you couldn't prosecute because he doesn't remember anything, even when his son dies.
It's the best thing we have. Otherwise, this thing is horrible. And there is no comparison between what he did and what Trump did. As Trump points out, look, he didn't have executive privilege to take those during all those years. And that's interesting because I was telling you during the break what we're hearing from the special prosecutor's report is a different version of James Comey, no reasonable prosecutor. The special prosecutor here is saying no reasonable jury. And so what they're, which it wasn't the place of, we believe it wasn't the place of then FBI Director Comey to make that judgment. That should be the AG saying we're not going to prosecute. He wasn't he wasn't a special prosecutor. He was the FBI director. Those are the things that were out of line there. Now you look at it and ask why her put that in the report and say, okay, well, there's got to be a reason, right? Well, it sounds reminiscent. But then it also sounds reminiscent of Comey's testimony about Hillary Clinton. Well, I don't think she understood what the letter C stood for. Now, he didn't say dementia or anything. He was just saying, I don't think she, understood what the letter C, classified, stood for. I don't think she got that. He was just trying to say, well, she's not very smart as a woman or something. See, I think he's a misogynist, but that's, for the liberals to figure out. And and now, if they can do it, I can do it. And now you have basically the Uncle Leo defense here. If it's not the conspiracy theory, it's like, okay, the only thing we can do is he's the guy walking around. He's the guy walking into the courtroom in a robe.
Right. Or, like I said, they didn't believe they could sell that we're prosecuting
Exactly.
Trump and not him because of this, and they didn't think that could convince the public.
Right.
And so they added the fact that he's Uncle Leo.
And either of these motives could apply easily and without any stretch.
Let me play this quick audio from more from CNN, Anderson Cooper last night. Here we go.
I don't think the president did himself any favors in that speech. He undercut two of his biggest messages. The adults are back in charge by sort of being dismissive of, yes, he was exonerated. He's not going to be convicted or tried for this, but there's some really damning pieces of information in here. He had deliberations around Afghan war plans with him. He spoke to a biographer about classified documents who didn't have clearance. This showed a decent level of reckless mishandling of classified information.
He said in that he didn't.
He said that he didn't. So I think there was a dismissiveness to the seriousness of this. And then on the other hand, they were using this bizarre line to say he stepped away from an international crisis, the biggest attack on our ally Israel since the Holocaust, to go deal with a self-inflicted investigation by the Department of Justice. How is that supposed to inspire confidence? I don't know why he went back out. He already said most of this in Virginia today, but this is becoming a 5-alarm fire for the White House.
Mexico? Where did that come from?
That's CNN.
Yeah.
I got to see if I can find some MSNBC stuff.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We will just reading here. I just was reading thehill.com, looking to see how they analyze the president's stuff. And the first story is tempered flared on the Senate floor Thursday when Senator Kyrsten Sinema asked Lindsey Graham to explain why he voted against advancing the border security deal she negotiated, and Graham responded by panning it as effort to secure the border. So that just got to me. But we'll get more to the insanity yesterday, and also get to the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
What a day that was!
Oh my gosh,
the Supreme Court, and looking at whether Trump is eligible to run. You know, the one thing that got to me just very quickly here. You know, you and I always read Amy Howe from SCOTUS Blog.
She's great.
She really is. She's probably one of the best analysts out there, and that's what she does all the time.
Yep.
She looks at it, and rarely do you see a headline that she has where it says the Supreme Court. She'll talk about the questioning, but she's been there long enough to know that a lot of times the questions that are asked are no indication of where the judges are going. So for her lead article to be, Supreme Court appears unlikely to kick Trump off the Colorado ballot, shows you the intensity of the blowback at the lawyers that were representing the state of Colorado.
Right. And,
I mean, it was just...
And if you were paying attention to, you know, the back and forth from the hearing, then she's right, but it was that obvious. And as you mentioned, I mean, she's a very critical analysis or analyst, and her analysis is all about breaking it down. Okay, here's what this person said during the hearing, and here's the point that this other party made, and here are the questions that this justice asked, and blah, blah, blah. But this was kind of I don't think it wasn't a definitive conclusion, of course, because she doesn't know, but for her to write that headline, it is indicative of what went on yesterday at the Supreme Court, and we'll expand on that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley on this super show, on this super weekend.
We're having a super time.
And the Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl weekend. All right. Go sports.
All right. Let's make this simple. And this is the Supreme Court looking at Trump's eligibility, and this is on Democrat states attempting to kick Trump off the ballot by falsely using the Insurrection Act.
Right.
Number one, there was no insurrection.
No.
That is a key point. There was no insurrection. Was there a riot? Yes. Was there an insurrection? No.
Right.
There's been no charge of insurrection.
Nope.
There's been allegations of insurrection without being able to back it up with any charges.
Yes.
And so that's point number one. Point number two, even if there was an insurrection, it is not up to the states, to decide if a particular, I'm not saying a president, but even if the insurrection law included the president, the states would not be the arbiter of that. They would not be the ones. It would be Congress. And number three, the Insurrection Act doesn't apply to the President of the United States because it's not listed there, which is what Justice Jackson had to say yesterday. It was amazing how many constructionists just listened to what she had to say on a variety of different things and went, wow, she's absolutely right. Let's put it this way. Justice Jackson made it known yesterday that she understands a ton of different things. Number one, originalist and constructionist thinking, because she used that in part of her argument.
Right.
Which means she was lying during her confirmation hearings when she said she can't define a woman.
Right.
By her articulation, using many conservative principles, constructionist principles, which is what was the intent of the Founding Fathers.
Right.
And if something wasn't put in there, where is it? And give us other examples where something isn't put in, where it's like, okay, if it's not put in, it means, all right, we go after him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is part of her point that she's making here now.
And why didn't they put the word president in the very enumerated list in Section 3? The thing that really is troubling to me is I totally understand your argument, but they were listing people that were barred, and president is not there. And so I guess that just makes me worry that maybe they weren't focusing on the president and, for example, the fact that electors of vice president and president are there suggests that really what they thought was if we're worried about the charismatic person, we're going to bar insurrectionist electors, and therefore that person is never going to rise.
This came up in the debates in Congress over Section 3, where Reverdy E. Johnson said, why haven't you included president and vice president in the language? And Senator Morrill responds, we have. Look at the language, any office under the United States.
Yes, but doesn't that at least suggest ambiguity? And this sort of ties into Justice Kavanaugh's point. In other words, we had a person right there at the time saying what I'm saying. The language here doesn't seem to include president. Why is that? And so if there's an ambiguity, why would we construe it to, as Justice Kavanaugh pointed out, against democracy?
And number one, as I said, there was no insurrection. There's been no charge of insurrection.
Right.
Number two, the president isn't listed as somebody, even if the Insurrection Act should be used, the president's not listed as one person that it can be used against.
Right.
And number three, even if the president was on that list, Congress acts, not the states.
Right.
And so it's a slam dunk. It's three for three on that one. But just listening to her talk yesterday and, her promoting constructionist and originalist ideas shows that, she was lying when she said she couldn't define a woman. We believe.
And we believed she was
then.
Yes,
we believe then because we believe that Justice Jackson is smart enough to know what a woman is. She just, number one, because she is one.
I was going to make the joke. She probably knows some women herself.
Yes.
Sorry. I missed an opportunity.
But it is more evidence that Justice Jackson lied under oath in her confirmation hearings when she said she could not define a woman. Right. I'm sorry, but listening after her testimony yesterday, she knows. And the other thing that you come to the realization is, that they know because they use it when they wish to use it.
Yeah.
That the originalist, and because that's what this whole discussion is on constructionist originalism. That's what it's all about. That's what everything is about here. What do the Founding Fathers think? Right. Well, they just throw it out the window and we move on because I haven't heard this in a while though. The Constitution is a living, breathing document. Remember that one?
Man, how far do we have to go back? I don't know how long it's been since I've heard that.
Probably the 90s, when it was used all the time in the 90s.
Yeah.
The Constitution is a living, breathing document.
Yeah, no, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
And
by the way, the definition of Constitution, if you think about it, just the word Constitution, it's the opposite of living and breathing. Living, breathing document. This is going to be the foundation, the establishment. I mean, you think about your own this is my personal constitution. It means that it's the core of who I am, something that can't be changed. So when they made that stupid argument for a number of years, living, breathing document, then you don't know the definition of the word Constitution.
Yeah, I just always love that
or the
one.
meaning
so,
of it.
So how are we gonna justify something? We're just gonna throw out a phrase that really has nothing to do,
right,
or is based in reality, and people would just shake their heads and go, yep, it's a living, breathing document. Okay, yeah, it's living and it's breathing. Oh, really? So it's got lungs? Let me check. Give that Constitution a cigarette and see if they cough. You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I wanted to get to this point here because this was really interesting. This is exactly when I was having a discussion with some friends yesterday, because one of my buddies said, Trump's going to get killed here. And I went, I'll bet you $10,000. I said, I'll bet you $10,000. He wins, and maybe $5,000 that it's not.
They were saying he's going to lose this case.
Yes, there was one of my buddies saying he's going to lose the case. I'm like, what case are you talking about?
Hey, can I get in on your bet?
Well, my other buddy was like, maybe you're thinking of another case. Is he thinking of an? And he never answered.
He might
in the
be.
Group text.
He might be. So we'll just give him that benefit of the doubt.
But it was, and I just said, well, because what you have to understand about, I said they may come to the same conclusion for different reasons.
Right.
And the different reasons would be that they're not federalists. They don't believe that states. They believe states should be a lot weaker, where the other justices believe the state should be a lot stronger. But in this case of the 14th Amendment, it's clear where the authority lies in the Constitution.
Right.
But the fact is, it doesn't matter whether the federalism is a legit legal argument or is not.
Right.
And Andrew McCarthy. It was funny because right before the show I was reading it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it!" And he was making that exact same case. Here it is. More fundamentally, Justice Thomas, among others, pressed for historical examples of states excluding federal officials. There's some ambiguity in the historical record, but the bottom line is that the lawyers could come up with no clear examples. As Thomas pointed out, there were lots of former Confederate officials and soldiers in the aftermath of the Civil War. If Section 3 were understood to mean what Colorado says it means, there should be lots of examples. There just aren't. What surprises people is what appeared to be the hostility of the left-leaning justices to Colorado's position. If we think about Justice Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan as Democrat appointees, it is indeed surprising. You assume if Trump is against it, the Democrats are for it. They're with the Democrats. But if you instead think about these justices as philosophical judicial progressives, their hostility makes perfect sense. The 14th Amendment is the foundation of the progressive project in American governance. It is, as Chief Justice Roberts pointed out today, a signal shift in power. It restricts the states and empowers the federal government. American progressivism is nothing if not anti-federalism.
Exactly.
And at that point when I went, he's saying what I said earlier this morning.
Right.
Colorado's position, however, is that Section 3 empowers a state to set the conditions of eligibility for federal office. That is not a tenable interpretation. The 14th Amendment was about limiting state power in that area.
Right.
And so it is, and it's true. And I just like, and that's the answer right there, which is why I've always thought it could end up being 9-0.
Right.
And so because it's about, how
you said that. You said, look, you said it may not, just because they may try and make the, three justices might try and make an absurd point, but it should be 9-0. And now it might be. After the hearing yesterday, there's every indication that at least Justice Jackson is on board.
Yeah, for different reasons, though.
Different motive.
Right, different motive.
But also probably, if you think about it, too, knowing if the Supreme Court, if we, as a collective body, if the High Court sets this precedent, then it also applies to people like Greg Abbott in terms of being able to take someone off the ballot and finding, or a judge that thinks, opposite of what we do, in this case, to compare it directly to Colorado, that, the judge didn't, well, I believe this was insurrection. And he's off the ballot. Well, he wasn't charged. He wasn't prosecuted. He wasn't convicted.
Right. And what was there was one other point. Well, I'll think of it coming up.
But they may have a different, again, they have a different motive, but it could be a 9-0,
There's based on the fact that if they are just that, anti-state power, if that's something
alone,
ideologically, that's
right.
what I've always thought.
Right.
It'd be for a different reason.
Right.
But it's the fact that, and it's the other thing is, too, then any other state could use that to go after a Democrat president, too. The other thing is, as they pointed out, even those officials can still run for office under the Insurrection Act. Even, any of them can run for office. It's that Congress can remove them if they were involved in an insurrection once they get into office. So there really were 4 points that they were bringing up against the state of Colorado.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading this from Cheryl Atkinson, who wrote yesterday, the well-known reporter. And this actually isn't it's sort of a legal point, but it's a point that I think most Americans would understand. In short, for or against Trump, it seems to me that American courts and state elections officials cannot by themselves convict a citizen of a crime for which he was never charged and then apply punishment for that. That would give courts and elections officials never before granted authority that deprives an accused person, not even a formally accused person, his constitutional right to a defense, to have his case heard by a jury, and to appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the broad legal. That would be a broad umbrella legal argument over it that most people automatically could relate to, and then you get into
introduce the whole due process thing and how that would normally work. That's look. Anybody who, again, it's how many, I don't know how many things on the table right now that we've said this about. Anybody that's actually just looking at it as layman, you can see, well, a judge can't do that, or, they can't. Well, it doesn't matter that they can't do that. They're doing it until they've been overturned. This is their attempt. This is their mindset. We'll just say he's not eligible to be on the ballot. We'll just and it's clearly their Hail Mary tactic. This is going to be, or series of Hail Marys, I guess. But when you break down the case, it's as weak as it gets.
Well, there's two reasons I'd like to see it 9-0. The one reason is the fact that it would shut the door completely and show how radical Democrats have become.
Right.
How desperately radical they become. The second reason I'd like to see 9-0 is I just want to live for the day when Democrats in Congress are screaming to pack the courts in order to get rid of these liberal radical justices who voted for Trump.
Justice Jackson must go.
Justice Jackson must go. And then they'll use it against her because, this woman sided with Trump and she can't even define what a woman is.
Exactly.
They'll use it against her.
And I'm sure it will be probably Elizabeth Warren doing that. Let me ask you a question. Leading the charge. I don't know why she comes to mind first, but let me ask you a question. Here's a question.
Yes.
Have we ever seen, let's say it's 9-0. And the theory in the last segment pointed out that, it would clearly be for different reasons. Could we see concurring, how do I phrase this?
Yes.
Concurring opinions with dissenting reasons.
I can see concurring on some, and there's not going to, if it's 9-0, there isn't going to be a dissent.
I know, but that's my whole point with the
something on something like this, because it's something that was heard quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They might just say, no, you don't have a case. Quick statement, and boom, everybody.
We order this. We ordered them to put him back on the ballot.
We ordered put him back on the ballot. No case was made here without really going into any type of explanation.
Right.
I would like for history's sake and for precedent's sake that they give specific reasons. Of where this was wrong, and I think probably Roberts would. I would think that Roberts would want to do it on a 9-0 case. If it's going to be 9-0, you want to shut the door on this forever, right? Mm-hmm. You would think.
And I would like to read I guess my funny question from before really is built out of my curiosity. I would love to see opinions written from all 9 if it's 9-0. I would love to see that. Their breakdown, as we pointed out.
Yeah, I like
it's a concurring opinion on the decision with a dissenting reason.
so you could see on the actual legal brief the tears from Sotomayor. Actually, on the sheet, that's
where she starts her opinion with "Okay, fine."
Well, you saw her. What was it that? And the call for her came from the left. She needs to go.
Yeah,
because she was saying how much she suffers with each conservative, constructionist win.
Yeah,
for the majority.
It's time for her to retire.
How much she suffers. It's like, well, then you need to get out.
Right. Yeah.
The most influential radio show in the world. On now, at this moment, Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, with everything that happened yesterday and the fallout that I just don't see going away, and I'll give you an example in just a moment here. First off, on the Supreme Court, if they come back with a 9-0 or 8-1 ruling, something like that, it will reinforce in the minds of people that the Democrats will do anything, especially if it comes back 9-0, because the Republicans are going to use that and say, see, this is how radical the Democrats are. If it comes back 9-0, the advantage for for Republicans is they can say, see, the Democrats continue to accuse us of the things that they're actually doing.
Right.
That they say that we wish to get rid of democracy. This is a 9-0 ruling. Every Supreme Court justice said what they attempted to do was unconstitutional because it doesn't exist in law. And so the Democrats consistently try to tell you we are pro-law and we follow the law because it's all about democracy and saving democracy, and they could give a damn about democracy.
Right.
They want to win however they can win in whatever, and you can use the F word. Fascist, not that other F word.
Oh, dang it. I wanted to use the other one.
And so that's the one, that's the advantage there, especially if it's 9-0. I have no idea whether it's going to be or not. I tend to believe, I don't know of any strong point that they could make. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if the ruling just came back and said, no, we reject it, Trump's on the ballot. You just leave it at that and let the Constitution speak for itself, and then nobody really gives an explanation. And by looking at it, you don't even know. It just says you don't even know. You just, by the fact that there's no dissent, in the short statement, you know at that point it was unanimous.
Right, yeah.
But that will be another little tidbit that Trump can add, to his campaign. See, they say that I'm anti-democratic. Look at what they do. They were just blown away by the Supreme Court. On the Biden situation, just looking at NBC News here, I just decided to scan some articles. All right, NBC, a nightmare.
Wow.
Special counsel's assessment of Biden's mental fitness triggers Democratic panic. Polls have long found that the questions about his age and mental abilities have plagued Biden's standing with the public. President Joe Biden, Peter Nicholas wrote this for NBC News. President Joe Biden sidestepped any criminal charges, as the investigation into his handling of classified documents concluded, but the political blowback from the special counsel's report Thursday could prove even more devastating, reinforcing impressions that he is too old and impaired to hold the highest office. That's NBC.
Right.
Wow. And they said, in deciding not to charge Biden with any crimes, the special counsel wrote that in a potential trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview with him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Now, there's the other conspiracy theory. Biden is actually has all his cognitive abilities, and he just went in and role-played.
Yeah, right.
It was tough enough for Biden to reassure voters about his health before Hur's report hit like a thunderclap Thursday afternoon, prompting members of his own party to question whether he could remain the nominee in November. It's a nightmare, said a Democratic House member who asked to speak anonymously to provide a frank assessment, adding that it weakens President Biden electorally and Donald Trump would be a disaster and an authoritarian. For Democrats, we're in a grim situation. That was a quote, by the way. Everything said there was a quote. Biden grew emotional when invoking part of the report addressing the date of his son's death. How the hell dare you raise that, Biden said. Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. And we went on to say how he couldn't complete a sentence there. He couldn't remember it when he talked about the rosary that he carries from Our Lady of, and then he just paused and moved on. And then he talked about having a Memorial Day service for his son all the time, which you and I looked at each other and went, wow. He's saying that he's fully cognitive as he's completely admits by what he's stating that he doesn't even know how his son died.
Yeah.
And so polling, and this is a problem, polling has long shown that age looms as Biden's greatest liability in his expected rematch with Trump. A January poll by NBC News found that 76% of voters have major or moderate concerns about Biden's mental and physical health. It's been a problem since way before this ever happened, said a longtime Democratic operative who noted that when focus groups are asked to apply one word to Biden, it often is old. Just this week, Biden twice referred to conversations he's had as president with foreign leaders who've long since died. Wow. In his remarks Thursday night defending his competency, while talking about the war in Gaza, he referred to the Egyptian president as being the head of Mexico. White House press aides have downplayed such lapses as the sort of mistake anyone in public can make. The Hur report strips away the defenses that Biden's press operation has used to protect him and raises fresh doubts about whether Biden is up to the rigors of the presidency, Democratic strategists said in the interviews. One Democratic operative said, "This is beyond devastating. It confirms every doubt and concern that voters have. If the only reason they didn't charge him is because he's too old to be charged, then how the hell can he be president of the United States?" asked if Her's report changes the calculus for Democrats who expect Biden to be the party's nominee. The person said, "How the F does it not?"
Yeah.
Another Biden ally called it the worst day of his presidency. I think he needs to show us that this is demonstrably false characterization of him and that he has what it takes to win and govern. Well, the problem is the public didn't believe that before this.
Right. And again, it's that now there is something tangible for those on the left who have kind of been looking for a reason that don't want to approach the blue whale pod in the living room. You know, when they don't want him to be the nominee, but they don't go down the whole dementia thing or whatever his cognitive issues are. They don't address that. And any defenders say, no, he's fine. And you'll find all those defenders at the White House in the administration. No, he's fine. He's fine. He's fine. But for those, if they're in the liberal media or they're just rank and file Democrat, that don't want him to be the nominee, now they have something tangible saying, well, you know what the special prosecutor found. And that's the difference. Now, this has really changed it. It's solidified something that we have all been witnessing. You and I have said it repeatedly. I think it's horrendous. I think it's horrendous that the American people can't find out the truth about his cognitive condition. And I also think it's horrendous that if there are cognitive issues and he's suffering, that those closest to him know it and they're setting this thing up. And I don't tolerate that at all.
You know, it was going viral a couple days ago. The Kevin McCarthy cut. I think it was from the end of November. He was at a New York Times presentation for something McCarthy, and he said, "You don't talk to Biden. You go in. He's got a card, and if you change the topic, he can't discuss it unless his aides give him another card. Then he has to have the card in order to do that, in order to speak." And he said on everything, he just said it was amazing. You actually don't negotiate with him. You negotiate with the card that he's given to read. Now that I wonder if he becomes the head of the RNC as Matt Gaetz wants. Did you see the blowback on that stuff? Oh my!
Yeah, no, it was bound to be blowback. I mean, because it makes you wonder why Gaetz would even bring him up. There's a ton of names that he could have offered up that Matt Gaetz or said nothing. I support Ronna McDaniel no longer being, and we're going to find the right person to lead the RNC, blah, blah, blah. And I have my short list and, blah, 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 or whatever, but we'll as a party decide, yeah. Kevin McCarthy?
There were some representatives, I was reading a couple of articles on it yesterday, Republicans that thought, that's just his sense of humor. He's joking. He's being extremely sarcastic. And then they asked him and said, "You being sarcastic?" He goes, "No, what I said is what I meant." It was just like, oh my gosh. It's like, but what the problem that Gaetz had with it, and that's why people are saying, okay, is he trying to get back in the good graces of the leadership, or whatever? Is he trying to get back into the good graces of someone? When he said that the head of the RNC is a fundraiser and really has no effect on public policy. To hell they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They do. The head of the RNC is always, whoever it is always on the Sunday morning news show promoting the platform and the agenda of the Republican Party. And since the head of the RNC knows that the Republican Party doesn't always agree, like any party doesn't, they take a certain position what they believe is the most sellable or what the majority of the Republican Party has said, which is exactly why Matt Gaetz should be against it, because he was in the minority against McCarthy to begin with.
Well, and that's the thing is that for him to say they don't have any influence on policy, are you forgetting who Kevin McCarthy just was? I mean, you of all people shouldn't forget the position he last held, if any head of the RNC would have influence on public policy, as you point out, they all do. But if any of them had it, it would be McCarthy. So it's the opposite of what the case he was trying to make. It really is. It was a boomerang, and I don't know what the motive was. And it could be that I suspected, maybe just one theory. I'm not married to it. If he is now feeling isolated, kind of carved out from the herd, look, you're not getting support. There were people, and by the way, keep in mind that day on Truth Social, former President Trump posted that he did not agree with that move of getting rid of Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
And Matt Gaetz didn't know that as it was going on that day and was told that by a reporter. So he's fallen out of favor with maybe Trump. He's fallen out of favor, obviously, with party leadership, and he realizes his power is waning, and so he's got to do something, a mea culpa. You were saying the other day, man, it sounds like a kind of a mea culpa, maybe, but it was a bad one. It was a really bad one.
Well, I think what Matt Gaetz should do is he should resign. I should run for that office. I'll win, and my office will be set up in one of the condos on Navarre Beach.
I just pictured as you were saying, and I was saying he's going to go with condo on the beach as an office.
Condo on the beach.
Condo on the
Navarre Beach.
Yep.
And it'll be my official residence. It'll be my residence and my office.
And I'll come visit you and go fishing.
Yes, we'll save money in the $2 million condo because we don't need a separate office and a living space. We'll combine the two.
Beautiful.
866, I like that idea. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, that when I was kidding about just the whole Matt Gaetz thing, and I was kidding and said Matt Gaetz should resign, and I'll run for the office and set up my office in a Navarre Beach condo. That's because I know his district, which is Joe Scarborough's old district, and I lived in Navarre.
You lived there, yeah.
I lived in
Navarre.
Navarre.
Beautiful district.
Oh, yeah, it is, and so that's why I said I think it's based out of Niceville.
Yeah.
Which is where one of my best friends is buried.
Yeah. About 20 miles away from Meanville, right? Angryville.
Well, it's right next to Eglin Air Force Base.
Yeah. A great Air Force base. My brother-in-law was stationed there for a little while. They loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah.
Miss it. Miss it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I got an email. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? I have no idea. It's why they play the game.
I know. The team that scores the most points. Yes. You're welcome.
If I knew who would win sports, I would never watch.
Well, that's...
Which I really don't watch a lot anyway.
Well, I call my bookie, and this is why he'll never take any bets from me. I'll say, hey, I want to put my money down on the team that scores the most points. What are you, some kind of wise guy? What are you doing? What are you doing? Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't know. Look, I don't know. Do we need to look up what the odds are? Or are they? I mean, I'm sure they're everywhere.
I don't even.
I haven't looked.
I don't even.
I don't know. I don't know. Now, the conspiracy theory is that the Chiefs, of course, are going to win because it's a team that is, we believe now, soon to be owned by Taylor Swift.
Wow, San Francisco's favored by 2.
Oh. Well, so I guess we're going to be having to deal with another breakup album from Taylor Swift soon. Because second place, ew. Ew. Wait till she finds out Kelsey's not a billionaire. Well,
since this may be the last time we can talk about it this year, though, I mean, it really is. It really is interesting because I don't care. It's pop culture crap. It's like,
fine if people like Taylor Swift and her music. Okay, that's what they like.
I was in that world. I was in that world 40 years ago.
You were the biggest Madonna fan at that time in 1984, right?
40 years ago, I had mentioned Matt Gaetz' district. 40 years ago, I lived in Navarre, Florida.
Yeah.
I lived in Navarre, where
doing music radio.
Yes, doing music radio, and the big pop cultural icons were Boy George and Madonna.
Right. Yeah.
Think about that.
Now,
that was before Like a Virgin came out and everybody burst out laughing.
Like a virgin. What would you know? No, never. Sorry. I'm sorry. We'll leave it alone.
Oh, now, wait a minute.
What?
Now, I believe, hold it, I believe I was living in Navarre, Florida. I was working in Fort Walton Beach, but living in Navarre. And 2 movies I remember came out. Red Dawn.
Okay.
And Purple Rain.
Yeah.
Right about this time.
Wow.
40 years ago.
Wow. Oh, well, yeah, okay.
Now, the original Red Dawn, not the,
Right.
Not the second Red Dawn when it was supposed to be the Chinese, and they changed it to the North Vietnamese.
So what years did you live there?
I lived there 83 and 84.
I was
all of 83 and 84.
I was a junior in high school in 83 and graduating in 84. That's weird. And you were already on and it was a rock station that you were working
yes,
for? Yeah.
rock station. I did the morning show.
You guys didn't play the Madonna, but of course the pop culture.
Actually, we were a top 40 station.
Oh, top 40.
We were
okay,
CHR,
okay,
as they call it. So, we played.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we day parted.
That's
why
the rock would be played after 7 p.m. for those that don't know.
Right. You would get more heavy as the day went along. And
no Loverboard before 5 p.m.
Or Van Halen. For example, we didn't play. This is just pops in my mind because I think, because it would have been 40 years ago. Isn't it amazing? These are things I haven't thought of, and all of a sudden, it
is weird.
I pull the file in my mind going, oh, no, Panama came out 40 years ago because in 84 is when Panama came out. And I remember it was like we didn't play it in the morning, but we played it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You could start playing Panama or something. Now, we played Jump.
Jump was a pop hit.
Yeah, Jump we could play in the morning.
Hit. Yeah.
But that was when, and you and I have talked about this, because with the sad death of Toby Keith this week, and a lot of people talk about how country music has changed, where it's almost pop. But remember, back then, and so, I was at a station that played the hits. We played Alabama. We played Ronnie Millsap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I can't remember.
Because it was crossover. Alabama was a huge crossover country.
Now,
band.
Due to the fact that we were, we broadcast out of L.A., which is, as they call it, the
Lower Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm not sure if that was because I can't remember whether I thought or my music director thought, okay, this is more applicable to where we live, and that's why, if we were down in Jacksonville or Orlando, we might not have, but I think we would have because they were on the charts
They were
on the charts
they were
big
officially
time.
crossover. No, especially Alabama. They were crossover, and it started to change. Now I was in Texas, so that may have been skewed. But I remember it. They were on the charts and top 40 radio, and I remember that word, the word crossover. And then you had Kenny Rogers and others crossing over, where he became more of a at times adult contemporary / country kind of thing. Ronnie Millsap, same thing. Huge Ronnie Millsap fan. But yeah, those were. But back in our day, the genres weren't separated. It was you would have R&B and crossover and rock and
Well, Johnny Cash in the 60s and 70s, you'd hear on rock radio.
Mm-hmm.
You think, and day partying was big back then.
Right.
All the top 40 stations back then. Even if you go back to the early 70s, they would play softer stuff in the morning.
Yeah.
And then by the time you got to night, they're playing, Free.
Yeah.
Paul Rogers and Free and All Right Now, and then Who We Can't Get Fooled Again. But odds are they weren't playing it in the morning.
Well, like us, the midday show especially, a little bit more adult contemporary. You would have Captain and Tennille and Murray, and then after 7 p.m., Raining Blood by Slayer. And so, you just kind of had to, get the kids away from the radio at 7 p.m. It's going to be bad. It's good. So, like, yeah. No, but that is weird to think about.
Well, but the thing is, I did work at a radio station. I will not say where it was or whatever, because the person who was the big boss was just like Mr. Carlson. He was the nicest guy ever.
Yeah.
A little bit clueless.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But a great guy.
But we were owned by a guy who was elderly and probably back then you used the term senile, but you use the word now. He had lost his cognitive abilities. Boy, this relates to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And he came up with the idea, because there are multiple stations that the company owned,
right?
But all the same kind of rock format. And he came up with the idea: let's poll everybody. Let's poll like the 100 people in this room here, which are all the support staff, the people that work, managers of the radio station, salespeople, receptionists. So some people that were from basically 18 years old to 80. And everybody put their favorite, top 20 songs down. We'll put them in a bowl, or we'll put them in the computer, and then the computer will randomly pick it up, and that's the format we're going to follow.
Right.
And God is my witness. I'm not making this up. You would play Frank Sinatra. Then the next song would be Van Halen. And then it would be Tony Bennett, followed by Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
And we said, we can't do this.
Right.
If we do this, we'll all be out of a job. And so the big boss didn't live in our town, lived in another town. So we didn't follow it, but we knew. We tapped into the general manager's office. We knew when he was calling and when he was going to fly his private jet into town. And then he'd come in just for a weekend. And then we decided, okay, let's have a special this weekend, right? We'd do it like with an hour's notice. We're going to have a Beatles weekend.
Right.
So we play all Beatles.
Right.
And that's
Right.
why we didn't have to follow the format. But that's how I worked for a WKRP.
Yeah.
I really did. I mean, I worked, but it was more insane than WKRP. But
and it's interesting because I remember I was working for an alternative station before I came here in North Texas, here in Dallas, and our music director came in. This is why I would never be. I can't be a program director. I'm just not. I don't have the skills and the vision and all that, but especially in music, right? Well, at an alternative station, especially in the mid-'90s, I was at a station called The Edge. It's no longer around. But our music director at the time, Mike, comes down the hallway. I'm working in production, and he comes over and he goes, "Hey, I want your opinion." It's like 8 p.m. and in production we were, making the commercials. For those who don't know, we worked pretty late. And so he goes, "I want your opinion. Listen to this." And it was a homemade CD, no label on it. And I listened to it. I was like, all right, sounds all right. But the lead singer kind of has, I don't know, he has a unique sound. And he's like, well, what do you think? I said, I don't know, play it and see what kind of reaction you get. You know, the thing about an alternative station is you could float music.
Right.
And that particular station did things like Sheryl Crow before she became a pop artist, really. And so you do that, and that's the thing. You kind of break music early, and then if it doesn't work, then it goes away. And then so Mike goes, he's like, okay, he goes back to his office, and my buddy Steve, we're sitting there working in production. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't, to be honest with you. And he goes, really? I said, yeah, the lead singer sounds weird. Rob Thomas, Matchbox 20.
Wow.
And they went on to have a massive success, and he had a solo career, and
did the song
Grammys.
with
Did the big Grammy song with Santana, and is a great vocalist and unique. But it would be like saying, okay, it's the case that plenty of people have made. If you had a show like American Idol or whatever the one is on NBC, The Voice today, and take those iconic singers from throughout the years and put them up there in a contest situation like that, they probably wouldn't move on to the finals, many of them. You have to kind of have that vision that, okay, this is, and the listener gets it. It ultimately is about, what the listener likes.
Well, it's interesting because whenever we talk music, we get people going, my God, you guys are an encyclopedia of music. That may be, but I cannot tell you one Taylor Swift song.
So
I would not know a Taylor Swift song.
I guess this is the time for me to. I think I've confessed this.
You have, yes, you've confessed it, yes.
When we have an adult special needs daughter, when she was an adolescent, she was big into Taylor Swift. Big, not so much these days. I mean, but when she was an adolescent, she had an iPod. Well, that's how far back this goes. Remember the iPod? And she said, Dad, can you download Taylor Swift's album for me? And so I went to iTunes and purchased the album to download it onto her iPod. So it's, I have bought her music before. I can't say I've heard it, but I bought her music before. And people need to know that about me in case it comes out when I run for office. So I've actually made the purchase.
Yeah. I've seen, I've seen clips of her in concert where I watch for about a minute, but the songs never stick with me.
Yeah.
But I watch it and say, don't get it. And I get, even though I'm not into it, I understand. I don't get it. I don't really like it. Madonna and Lady Gaga.
Lady
I understand
Gaga,
where they come
Pink
from.
for me, because I've seen her live.
Same thing with Pink.
I saw her live. I think it was her first tour. She's incredibly talented.
Probably, she'd probably be somebody I could enjoy in concert, but just still wouldn't listen to the music.
Yeah, it's not my thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But you look at Taylor Swift, and you don't get to that point without a ton of people finding something.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah, I just don't get it. And it's not. Again, it's not an insult. There's a ton of music I don't get, and she just happens to be one of them. And so it's like when I see everything that's going on, I'm like, that's interesting in American culture.
It's like the difference in opinions. And my wife and I were kind of, she was raised on a farm and ranch, and and my dad was Air Force, so I kind of, I kind of was exposed to a lot of different music and stuff. But I was more rock, she was more country, and so I don't play my loud music, my metal, in my truck when she's there. But one day Megadeth came on the radio, and I was like, kind of not cranking it, but I turned it up a little bit, and then I looked over at her and I was like, oh yeah, I probably need to turn this back to the comedy channel.
The thing is, because I hear whether it's the Foo Fighters or so many rock artists say it was the Beatles, it was the Beatles, it was the Beatles. And I find that fascinating because everybody's environment is different.
Right.
And I know that when I was a kid, I've talked about this before, my father only had classical music. He was so afraid of rock and roll and where it was that everything was classical music. So when I heard the Beatles, like the first thing I remember, like something like I Want to Hold Your Hand, I went, and everybody went crazy. I went, don't see it.
Yeah.
Don't see it. And I never, until really they went more long form, and I hate to say it, but probably got into their drug years of, Hey Jude or I Am the Walrus and stuff.
The beard years.
The beard years, yes, where I said, okay, I'm starting to, sort of get it. But it was funny because the classical music, I always tell my father today, I said, Dad, you're trying to keep me away from the drug music. And so what classical music did was take me right to prog rock, the ultimate in drug music.
Yeah. I will say the same about the Beatles, but then it's, you discover different things. Eleanor Rigby, to me, still is a great song, and how it's composed and how they laid that down.
Yeah, I can appreciate more. I'm talking about the influences when you're young, because I think you and I talked about this. To me, solo, my favorite was George Harrison.
Yeah.
I just love what he did. So, and the fact he's the one that wrote Taxman.
Yeah. Right.
So he'll always be the greatest Beatle. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, reading this headline, GOP calls to invoke the 25th Amendment after special counsel casts doubt on Biden's mental acuity. This man has the nuclear codes. That's the headline. We'll get to that coming up, because it's like, what happens next now? Because the Republicans need to make a decision, because their thing is, do we want to know who we're facing now, or do we want to know who we're facing when the president or the Democratic Party wants to make it convenient to them, which might be September.
Right.
Or August or whatever.
Right.
And so I think there'll be a push and a pressure there.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I want to make sure we play this audio cut because we've talked about him in once in a while, and he's been parodied many times about useless sports talk. And when these commentators start screaming, and Stephen A. Smith probably is the one that probably a lot of people know the most.
Right.
That will start screaming, and it's like, who has a better completion percentage, and therefore what does it mean to their chance of being an MVP? And then the screaming that would ensue. What are you talking about?
Right.
SNL did a bit one time on that. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they would bring up the stupidest topic ever, and whoever was doing Stephen A. Smith would just go crazy about it, and they'd be arguing the minutia of nothing, and it was just hilarious. But he spoke about why the Democrats are in trouble.
Oh, okay.
All right. And this is why the Democrats and the president are in trouble. This was before yesterday. I want to make that clear. Because there's more trouble. We'll get to that coming up. But here, I had this earlier this week, and I said, got to make sure I play it before Friday. Otherwise, just, there's so many topics going on. The news cycle is so quick.
Right.
We'll forget about it, and I didn't want to, because this is a point when you talk about anybody who lives in cities right now. But when you talk about Stephen A. Smith, you can make the case, all right, what about the eroding numbers with blacks and other minorities? Here he is.
All right.
Okay.
So you can pick and choose. What it came down to for me is this. I see homeless folks in the streets of New York all the time that are American citizens. I damn sure see them in California. We've got poor, impoverished, starving people who were born and raised in this nation. How in the hell do we come up with a $53 million pilot program for illegals, but folks who are here legally are born here, we don't have enough of them? Just like we could come up with billions for Ukraine, but somehow, some way, we can't fix the homeless problem. I'm down for helping Israel. I'm down for helping address the situations with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, okay? I'm down for helping the Ukrainians and fighting off Russia. What about poor and desolate citizens here? How the hell do you print money for foreign countries, but you don't print that money to help eradicate folks that are starving right here in the streets of America, who were born and raised here? This is what I'm talking about. And so when you have something like that, what's the one way to eradicate it? Yes, you got to have a flourishing economy. Yes, you can't have inflation. Yes, you can't be on the verge of a recession. Milk don't need to cost $7. Bread don't need to cost $5. Don't get me started with how much sugar costs. You can talk about employment all you want to. You can talk about the labor participation rate. But guess what? If you ain't making no damn money and you got to get 2 jobs to pay the same prices or to buy the same amount of stuff that you used to buy, and the price is higher than it used to be because of inflation, then guess what? What are you really accomplishing? That's why Trump is on the verge of getting elected.
There you go.
Well, it's exactly actually what they found the day after the 2016 election. Wall Street Journal did a poll and asked people on the streets that happened to be in Harlem, why do you think Trump won and Hillary didn't? And one of the common threads, really the common thread, was because she was talking about things in other places of the world, and he was focused on things here at home. And that's going to be the sentiment with many people who are underwater right now, which is a lot of people because of inflation, spending power being depleted, and the economy where it is. Everyone is going, it's the reason why the border situation in the polls, you see it. We want the border secure, most Americans. We want the border secure. And right now, we don't want more legal immigration. A big part of that is because you're talking about spending money in other places of the world or spending money on people from other places in the world. We want you spending that money on us. If you're going to spend money, spend it on us. Now, we can have that debate as to whether if it's not an either-or situation and how budgets work and how spending works and what we should be spending, but that is the sentiment of millions of Americans.
Right, exactly. And he mirrors what was being said, I believe it was during the Obama administration when the border crossers were happening. It was like, well, why are you doing everything? Why are you doing everything for those people that aren't American citizens?
Right.
And by the way, you know what Stephen A. Smith is promoting? Nationalism.
Oh my goodness!
Breaking
news.
I just couldn't say it. Nationalism. I had to scream it.
That's
right.
a great
that
point, though. Which is, of course, one of the things that one of the millions of things Trump was demonized for in his campaign in 2016, and then since then.
Right. He wanted to take care of Americans first, and that was nationalism.
Right.
And that's exactly what Stephen A. Smith is talking about. And then later on, he went on to say that he doesn't want Trump to be elected because there'll be a civil war, and he's the revenge tour, and he was basically
he can't help himself.
He was basically talking about the number of rap artists that are coming out in favor of Trump now, and understanding why they do. But the fact is, it would be interesting to have a conversation to find out if Stephen A. Smith actually knows how economics works, because just the clues were when he was saying, we print money for everybody else, why can't we print money for Americans?
Yeah.
And then right after that, bread doesn't have to be this expensive. Well, you're talking about printing money. Do you even know how the system works to begin with?
The bread is expensive to a large extent because we're printing money.
And so it was like, okay, is he as a trying to be a populist, just around the edges of everything without ever tying it all together?
It's the way I took it, and also trying to express the sentiment of what, basically where what the political environment is and what people are talking about. And I'm with you. I would love to have a question and a Q&A, an interview, sit down with him, because I would also like to know, all right, do you believe, are you saying these things? Are you just expressing the sentiment of what you're seeing from others and people that say they're going to vote for Trump? Or do you believe that? Are you concerned about that? We shouldn't be spending money on Ukraine. We should be, because he said, I'm all for helping out all over here, but we got to fix our problems here first. Look, that's the sentiment. I would love to know more about that from Stephen A. Smith.
Now, speaking of the economic situations there, and by the way, he was right. He's something that we had said before. Why we had always said, if you've been a long-time listener for the show, we've always stated that actually what's worse is inflation. Inflation is always worse than a recession.
Right.
Because a recession may affect, 10% of the people may be out. That would be a major recession. If
massive unemployment, it would be
out of the
10%.
job. But that means that 90% of people are unemployed.
Yeah.
And during a recession, if people are unemployed, that means because of supply and demand, less people are buying products. That's why you see a slowdown. You see the unemployment higher. You see a slowdown in actually economic growth, where you have negative growth, and you see prices moderate or even come down because of supply and demand.
Right.
And so you look, not that that's good, but the worst part,
how it works.
The worst part, and we stated, and Stephen A. Smith, in the one point actually made the exact points that we made. The worst thing is inflation, because you're already working a job, or as he said, working a job and a half or two jobs, as Stephen A. Smith said, and you still can't get your head, over the water.
And I've been saying for how long now, Americans are underwater financially. That's exactly where they are.
And all the economic data with debt is showing on car loans, credit card loans, across the board. And so you look at it, and you want to talk about hope, because this is one thing, the hopelessness needs to stop. And there is no hopelessness because the economy is doing good. Well, if you're saying that, you're an idiot, because if people have a job and a half or two jobs and they're working 60, 80 hours a week and they still can't make it, where's the hope?
Right.
If you're working and can't afford to live, and you're working not just part-time, not just full-time, but a job and a half or two jobs, and your spouse is doing the exact same thing, and you still are having financial troubles, that's hopelessness.
Yeah, sure. And, that's it. And we've talked about that. When you're just working to no end, and this is kind of, the Wall Street Journal the other day. The economy is good. We can have that debate with them. So why are so many Americans, why do they, feel, so down on the economy? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing from the headline, but that's exactly what's going on. They're working, they're producing, and maybe taking on an extra job and producing, but it still doesn't earn them enough because of inflation. Their spending power has been depleted, and that's not coming back anytime soon.
That's a question and analysis that we always try to do, and I still haven't seen the numbers that would explain it to my satisfaction. They talk about it, and you just said where the Wall Street Journal said the economy is great. What does that mean?
Right.
Are we really having private sector growth, or is it the borrowing of money from future generations now at a much higher interest rate to run all these programs? Is it the movement of money that is propping up the economy, which means nothing?
Right.
Movement of money itself doesn't mean anything.
Right.
But it's counted in GDP.
Right.
So is it the movement of money, or what is the relationship or the percentage of the GDP, which is the movement of money through government spending that may build some products, but those products are not to increase productivity and efficiency, as more of the time it is in the private sector. So my question is it private sector growth from other private sectors, if you know what I mean, that the private sector isn't growing because the government's borrowing money and throwing it into the private sector? What is really driving the economy, and what percentage or piece of the pie does private sector economy have to do it? The production of goods and services versus government spending and borrowing money.
Yeah.
And that question has not been fully answered to me by any economist or analysis out there.
Right.
And I haven't seen it anywhere, because that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-I.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, talking about the economy. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, is going after shrinkage. There it is right here. Do you hate it when the big bag of chips that you bought? Oh, wait a minute. I thought there was a different reference to that. I'm sorry. A
another
reference.
Costanza moment.
Okay, let me change it then.
The water was cold.
Elizabeth Warren is against shrinkflation.
Oh.
And she had a rant on it yesterday in a series of tweets and videos over the past couple of days. Warren has come out swinging against shrinkflation of Doritos, Oreos, and other store-bought products whose sizes have shrunk even as their prices remain the same. We have been talking about shrinkflation over the last couple of weeks.
We have been.
And these big corporations are shrinking how much they give us.
Give us? Give us.
How much they give us.
See, you think like big government communists, these companies give you like the country would give you if she had her way. Yeah.
These big corporations are shrinking how much they give us, and they're charging the same amount or sometimes even more. Corporate executives thought we wouldn't notice, but they're wrong, Elizabeth Warren said on X.
All right.
Another word for shrinkflation is an obscure concept economists call inflation.
That is brilliant. I love it. I like to call it inflation. That's great.
Price increases erode the purchasing power of consumers' dollars. Inflation can appear when the price of the same size bag of chips increases and when the size of the same price bag of chips decreases.
There you go.
Both phenomena are still just the per unit cost of a good increasing, and that comes from Reason.com, the libertarian magazine out there. But one doesn't need conspiracy theories to explain inflation. The federal government's $4 trillion in fiscal stimulus, Stephen A. Smith, that's printing money, during the pandemic put a lot of cash in people's hands right as production was failing. The inevitable result, more money chasing fewer goods, is higher inflation.
There you go.
Just love it, though. Shrinkflation? No, it's actually just inflation.
Yeah, we like to call that inflation.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.